Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank our colleagues at the IIEA for inviting me. I asked whether I was giving a lecture or I was exchanging ideas. They said, well, whichever. I think I'm exchanging ideas. I want a dialogue. I don't believe that I know the subject very well, but I believe I have a few ideas based on what I have seen going around the world and my current responsibility. A little bit about myself and why I like the topic, harnessing globalization. I see myself as a product of globalization. A young man, late 40s now, relatively young man, from a village in Sierra Leone. Maybe Mr. O'Neill has heard of my village. It's called Kicha. It's in the west part of Sierra Leone, and one of the river deltas, last point to the Atlantic. Very poor. Less than 600 homes, no running water, no electricity. That's where I was born. You know, thanks to globalization, good Irish education. I went to a secondary school with Irish priests for 7 years, well grounded, well trained. Did my first degree in Sierra Leone, went to the States, competed. Went to Cornell, University of Illinois, well educated. Was teaching in the States, agribusiness. I say I see myself as globalization because that's part of the opportunity of globalization, that you can move around, that if you have the right skills, you can take advantage of opportunities. So indeed, today, from such a humble background, when I leave wonderful Vienna, where we are based, and I go home every 2 years on home leave, I go to my village. From the first world, from skyscraper office to a village where you have no electricity, no running water, and people are still very poor. So I face those two realities in my job. Somebody who has benefited from opportunities and somebody who now has to see how we help to raise other people out. You all know the story of globalization. Depending on where you sit on the fence, you see it as something great or you see it as something evil that is grabbing all the rich are getting richer, as some say, and the poor are getting poorer. I look at globalization as opportunity and possibilities. It's my own way of looking at it. Some may not agree, but that's the way I see it. And I strongly believe that's the way Africans should begin to look at globalization. We cannot stop it. This is a phenomenon driven by technology, finance, and opportunity. And we've seen it lifting Asians out of poverty. Peter mentioned over 1 billion of them. But yet it's going over Africa. Because there's still a fear in my people when we look at globalization. Because we feel we are left out. We are not looking at ways in which we take advantage of it. I go to Asia more than other regions to look at possibilities. What are they doing to tap into knowledge systems? What are they doing to make themselves attractive as a location for business so that they can be part of global value chains? We are not doing that yet enough. In North Africa it's happening, a little bit in Southern Africa, but the bulk of us in the middle is not happening. And I feel that the perspective has to change. What are some of the opportunities? You know many, I just highlight 3 of them that we have seen from our vantage point. A massive expansion in industrial manufacturing output, a lot of it from Asia. There are countries manufacturing components and parts of products today in Asia that did not do it before because of information technology, because also enterprises are willing to relocate, and because these regions have been able to specialize in tasks in the value chain. It's happening now, it didn't happen before. The digital communication system. I tell you, I was in Nigeria when they liberalized the digital communications market back in 2000, when they did the first bids. The idea then was that the planners thought that they would get about $400 million when they put out the license, 3 licenses. They raised over 1.5 billion. They could not believe it. So many people were interested to come. I was there. I arrived, my first mobile phone, analog, I bought for about $1,000 with the connection fees, and I had to wait for some time. You know, and I had come from Vienna, where I had just given one to my teenage daughter. Here I was in Nigeria, big diplomat, over $1,000 and waiting to get an analog phone, not a digital. But you know what happened? It was privatized in 2000. MTN came in, South Africa, and the Zimbabwe company and some others, Emirates people and so on. But you know, within 2 years, over 1 million people had access to telephones. Just like that. And it's much more today. That's because of globalization. And it's happening all over Sierra Leone and other parts of Africa. So Neil, you must have seen our people now with their mobile phones all over. My mother in the village can use a mobile phone. The story is that in my village, you have to be in a particular location close to the waterfront to get the signal. But they have it. They didn't have it before. If they are waiting for landlines, we would never have had a mobile phone there. Communications, dealing with people. I see these opportunities. I'm not saying we don't have the negatives. They're there. I know others will talk about it. But trade opportunities as well. Many examples, you know. But a recent one that Paul Collier drew our attention to. Paul was in Vienna for a whole day last week talking to us. He's doing some research work for us. You know, he wrote this book, The Bottom Billion, that everybody's quoting. But you know, in one of his recent studies that was just published in December 2007, he said, look at what has happened with trade in textile and garments from Africa. You know, within a period of almost 10 years, the trade has quadrupled to about 1.4, 1.6 billion. Part of it comes to AGOA. But that's still part of the global system. You know, and he gives reasons why this has happened. But it happened. Lesotho did not produce garments before. But in 10 years, they've been able to do it. People argue this is footloose capital coming in, it will come out again. But it came in. So there's a possibility that it can come to Africa. So I see these opportunities, and I go to Asia. You know, China, India. The Chinese took me, when I visited, they said, okay, Dr. Yumkella, welcome to China, welcome to Beijing. First we take you to Gansu province. Dead West, poor, desert. So then we take you to Shanghai. So we did it. I saw stark poverty. And we talked about the possibilities of renewable energy. Solar, because it's a desert, they have the sun. But I also saw pollution. Then we went over to Shanghai. They said, now we talk to you about the future, where we want to go. I don't have the same vibration in Africa. I go to Malaysia. We look at the oil palm and what they've done with commodities that were originally produced in Africa. I see what they've done, applying better management systems, science and tech, looking at how they leverage their agricultural advantage to move into industry and services. And I come back to my people. I don't hear the same buzz, the same passion, the same move. And the Malaysians tell you, we're doing well. But you know, we're not doing well enough. We're not doing well enough. I don't feel the same passion in Africa. That something is happening we cannot stop. How do we move forward and change it? Why is this not happening? Many reasons. Civil wars, conflicts. But also I believe that some of us in the development community, and now I'm challenging myself and others, and I say in the United Nations General Assembly and everywhere, in quiet meetings with Bob Zelek of the World Bank, or my other colleagues, or the Secretary General, I say because some of us in the development community also believe Africans cannot do it. So even the solutions we propose to them is interventions that are too small to change lives of people. It's almost as if we're glorifying poverty. I have said to some, for example, agricultural policy, we focus on the small farmer, half an acre, and I hear people trying to convince Africans that they will be competitive from that business model. It has happened nowhere, nowhere. Even Green Revolution in Asia, which I spent many hours studying in the States and teaching, it was balanced. Green Revolution was promoted, but it was a package of interventions. Fertilizer, water management, infrastructure, extension services, borrowing ideas from cement and other places in Mexico, new varieties, new technologies. It was a package of interventions, but also commercialization. Let us not convince Africans that the glorified small farmer, I know it raises money better for aid. If you show the starving African and the poor African, you get more money for intervention. But it creates a mentality in my people that is a receivership mentality. That you were bound to be poor. In Asia, they don't talk about it that way. They talk about wealth creation. SMEs, small businesses. They talk about opportunities in the global system. They encourage their own people to go out. Go to Ireland, go to the US. Look for what others are doing that is changing their lives. We keep showing the poor peasant, starving African, and today our people believe it. Some of them cannot even look at solutions they should come forward with. And you know, I go there and people tell me, we're waiting for you in the donor community.